You have been living on bread for many years, maybe as a kid. But as you grew up, you finally realize that that flour and that starchy food that you're eating is not good for you. It's getting converted right into glucose. It's spiking up your glucose levels and your insulin. It's causing all kinds of problems, maybe insulin resistance you've been diagnosed with, or pre-diabetes, or even diabetes. But the majority of breads in the world are generally made up of flour, salt, sugar, yeast, and water. And yes, I understand there are many breads out there. Some are much healthier than others, but the majority of people are not eating healthy bread. They're eating white bread, enriched, refined white bread, which is spiking up their insulin and glucose levels and leading to many types of ill problems like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, clogging of the arteries, autoimmune deficiency, fatty liver, and the list can go on. And in many of my videos, I've talked about resistant starches with different types of foods. That means that the enzymes in our body, particularly in the small intestine, is not digesting those particular starches, and it's making its way to the large intestine within the colon. And that becomes like a soluble fiber, like a prebiotic that feeds our probiotic. And as that good bacteria within your gut starts to break down this resistant starch, the body starts to form short-chain fatty acids, primarily butyric acid. And that butyric acid has major anti-inflammatory properties. It helps those colonocytes, the cells within the colon, to prevent colon cancer. It also makes its way into the bloodstream, working as an anti-inflammatory to help all the other organs, tissues, and glands. But what I'm about to share with you is something that will be extremely helpful to you, your loved ones, your friends who eat bread. And this is a research PubMed study called The Impact of Freezing and Toasting on the Glycemic Response of White Bread. And this study showed 4 different things. The first thing is the fresh bread. The second thing is toasting the fresh bread. The third thing is freezing the fresh bread and then eating it. And the fourth thing is freezing it and then after it's frozen, toasting it one more time. So this is what they found. Obviously, the fresh bread in itself is going to have the highest glycemic index, meaning the sugars are going to be converted very quick into our cells. We're going to spike up glucose and insulin. The second was just toasting it. Obviously, it lowered the glycemic index. The third was freezing it. That made the glycemic index 31% lower. And the best thing was after it was frozen, and we defrosted it, or didn't even have to defrost it, and then we decided to toast it, it even lowered the glycemic more. So imagine, here's frozen white bread. I just decreased the glycemic index by 31%. That means this is going to help my sugars get into my bloodstream much slower. It's going to give me more satiety. It's going to actually help feed the good bacteria when it makes its way to the gut. Those enzymes are not going to be able to digest a portion of this bread. A certain portion will be digested, but it's going to be digested slowly. Now imagine if you take this frozen bread and then you decide to toast it, it's going to lower the glycemic index even more. The study was primarily done on white bread. Now, does this happen with other kinds of breads? Absolutely. To what degree? I cannot tell you, but I am sure that if there is starch in bread, it works with the same concept. And your healthiest breads are sprouted whole grains, sourdough, 100% whole wheat, oat bread, flax bread, 100% sprouted rye bread, healthy gluten-free bread, and the list goes on. But our children, our friends, our family that's living on white bread, not only in the white bread that you buy, but the flour that's in many of the foods that you're eating today, that is filled with starch. And that quick flour and the starch is converted to glucose that causes many problems in our body. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it with your friends and family. Leave your comments below because I expect many